study the overnight.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Fatima Jakombajabi. I enter the Gambia representative living in Sweden, Gothenburg. At We Enter the Gambia, we talk about issues affecting the country and look for way forward. We also help in promoting Gambian entrepreneurs living in the country and abroad. And I am your host for the reality show on your favorite platform, We Enter the Gambia. On the reality show, we'll bring you hot debated topics on issues affecting the sustainable development of the Gambia and more. Please follow us and like our page on Facebook, Re-Enter the Gambia, for more educative and great programs. Good evening, everyone. My name is Fatima Jakombaja Bijob, and I'm your host for the reality show on your favorite platform, the Re-Enter the Gambia. Our today's topic, today's topic is find solutions towards ending tribalism in the Gambia. And my guests are Lamin Tamba, Mr. Lamin Tamba. And can you please introduce yourself? You're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Fatima. My name is Lamin Tamba. I'm a Fonyi boy living in London, United Kingdom. I'm happy to be on this platform to talk about various issues affecting our community today. Thank you very much. I hope to have a meaningful dialogue with everyone, or a four-way conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tamba. Thank you for joining us. And our second guest is Mr. Momodu Sabali. Sabali, can you please introduce yourself?
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for having me on board. I'm Momodu Sabali, CEO, founder of Glow Magazine, and economist by profession. Glad to be on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Sabali, we also have Mr. Pamodu Job. Mr. Job, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, BMJ, a social activist, obviously residing in the United States, and thank you for having me to contribute to the dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last but not the least is my co-host, Miss Juka Dabo. Juka, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, Jakong. I am Juka, Gambian living in the Gambia. That's about it.
Thank you very much, and I am very happy to have you all here today. I'd love to start with Mr. Sabali, hence you're living in the Gambia. Mr. Sabali, I've been seeing a lot of posts recently on the social media regarding tribalism in the Gambia. Does it exist? Or what's your take on that before we go further?
Well, yes, tribalism, I think, exists, much as a lot of us try to deny it, or some try to talk it off, saying it's just on social media. It's not true. Tribalism is real in the Gambia. The sooner we accept the reality that it exists, the better for us, because you can't solve a problem unless and until you admit that a problem exists. The point is, we belong to tribes, Mandinka, Wolof, Fula, Jola. This is reality. And I think it's innate in us that everybody would want to think that your tribe is better than the other tribe. As I was listening to my favorite preacher last night, Amar Bunjeng, and he quoted this ayah from Surah Hujurat, where Allah says, Tabarak Ta'ala, Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu inna akramakum 'indallahi atqakum. Where Allah says that He made us from male and female and divided us into nations and tribes that we may know each other. And that distinction is worth knowing, that Allah didn't say He made us tribes so we hate each other. He said He made us tribes so we know each other. But going further, Bunjang, he said human beings have never accepted this ayah, that nobody is better than the other person, except as Allah continues in the ayah that the one who fears Allah most. We've never accepted this. But should should that make us to rest on our laurels and accept that reality to continue? No. It is incumbent upon us to face this monster head on and try to resolve the problem. And I think it's resolvable if we sincerely attack it with commitment and dedication. MJ, this one guy is screen. I don't know.
Yes, that was a good intro by Mr. Sabali. It looks like he's having some technical problem. But while we wait for Sabali, Mr. Job, what's your take on that?
Yeah, thank you so much. I do concur that tribalism exists. It would possibly, I don't know, behoove the mind why someone would want to deny that. Yes, I read that surah that he quoted, and yes, you know, Allah said that He has divided us in tribes, men and women. I would tend to say that tribalism in itself is self-inflicted. Why I say it's self-inflicted is because if I have to trace it back, it would stem from the person, the individual himself or herself, and from the background that the person comes from. And such ignorance is perpetrated from the parents to the child. And as, I don't know if you guys recall, a certain CNN survey about young children who were doing a test about racism. And the children were asked to go point to a white baby or a black baby, which one is better. And even the sad part was even the black babies had to go and point to the white baby as a superior. So basically, it's a learned trait. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I'm hearing.
So it's a superior trait that is learned from the parents. So when it comes to Gambia, it's sad that in our generation, I would have thought that in our generation, young youth, us sitting here, well, this is the first step to address it. But it's sad that we are the ones perpetrating these sort of ills in our society. And tribalism is defined in two ways. First, if you advocate for who you are, because your tribe is your identity, culturally speaking. So if you identify who you are, that is not a problem because it's your right. It's your right to identify yourself so everybody can know who you are, where you come from. Where the problem lies is when you feel like you are superior, when you feel like the next person is next to nothing. He is not worth contributing to the country or contributing to society. That's where the problem lies. Now, that is not even in an institutional manner. When we have to define it in an institutional manner is when this individual who harbors this internal thought starts to have power at the state level and start to suppress other tribes because of his inferiority or his complex. That is when it becomes an institutional problem. It becomes a political problem when the same individual wants to use his or her tribe to gain power. But as we progress, we would go ahead, hopefully, elaborate more on all these three areas that have touched as far as from the home, the individual getting that insecurity from the home, passed down from the parents or whatever experiences they had, to now outside in the society, to schools, to the political arena. Now the person gains power and now using it in an institutional level. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pamodu Job. Hope you won't beat me because I keep mistaking you for your brother. So that was very well said. And Mr. Tamba, what's your take on that?
Well, I agree with Mr. Job at certain levels. That tribalism exists. We belong to tribes where individuals, where men and women, we come from different regions or different tribes. We speak different languages, and people see those things. The majority of the time, there are no physical lines or physical attributes that says to people, yes, sometimes some people look different. The Fulanis might look different from the Joras. However, there are certain individuals who look the same but come from different tribes. Now, there's nothing wrong with promoting your individuality. There's nothing wrong with promoting your tribe or being proud of your tribe. Like Mr. Job said, it's perfectly okay. It's within your right to say, oh yeah, I'm a proud Yola, I'm a proud Fula, I'm a proud Syria, I'm a proud Mandinka. Whatever tribe we seem to think we come from, because naturally no one is born a certain tribe. We just see our parents practicing it one way, the same way, and we think we're that. It only becomes wrong when we become powerful and man places of public influence, and we start using that tribal card to rule what is meant to be public. So if we run positions or institutions where everyone is supposed to be equal, everyone is supposed to have a fair share at opportunities, somebody decides, okay, I'm from this tribe, I'm going to be biased towards that tribe or against the other tribe, that's when it becomes wrong. When tribalism becomes discriminatory, that's when it becomes absolutely wrong. And this is what Mr. Njai touched on, and that's what I wanted to speak to you about. What's wrong with being proud of your tribe? We cannot use it as a tool, institutional, financial tool to suppress other people or to gain unfair advantage. And this is where our governments or the surrogates or the militants are going wrong. It's interesting to find that most of our political parties have got very decent people. Probably 99% of the people do not agree with tribal sentiment, that rhetoric. It's that 1% that seems to have that much noise about them. The loudmouths always form that 1% of its political party. So some of that tribalism that's been hitting the UDP is not the entire UDP as a party. It's just one or two individuals that are peddling that tribal rhetoric, and we must condemn them and stop them bringing it to the surface. We're happy to have Mandinkas. I'm proud of Mandinkas. I'm proud of Fulas, Seres, Wolofs, Fulas, everyone in Gambia. When Jagos, the balancers, I'm proud of them. What we cannot do is stop people getting what they deserve because they come from one region of the country or because they come from one tribe. We must stop that. We must discourage it. And we can't stop it. We have to do it now. We're the younger generation, and we need to condemn it to the dustbins once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tamba. But this is a non-partisan. So I'll love us to control ourselves and do it professionally. Thank you, Mr. Job. When did you think all these ill concepts begin in the Gambia? What's the cause?
If I am correct, or if my history serves is right, is the tools that the colonial masters used. See, when the colonial masters came, they did find that, again, here, don't quote me on it because my history is kind of fuzzy here. But if I understand it right, the Mandinkas had a governing system. That's why you had the alcalos, the sepos that were stuck in our constitution. So the Mandinkas had a governing system, but they were not educated at that time. So the colonial masters felt like it was necessary to focus their governing style in the urban areas. So what they did was they put the Wolofs and the Akus close to them. So when these people were educated, the people in the rural areas were left aside. They were left aside, and there were. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So these sort of divisions kind of brewed from behind, and it kind of started emulating. Then all of a sudden, it started going to us as far as education. No wonder a Gambian first would look at you and ask you the first question is, "Kan mo tapa?" There's a reason why a Gambian will straight up go to Kanmoista Pakasayai, because they want to identify which tribe you are first before they even have a conversation. See, when you meet a Senegalese, the Senegalese would ask you, where are you from in Senegal? Then they ask you, are you from Dakar, the region? They would go last. I think, can someone mute, because it's kind of coming back loud.
Okay. You can. These are the colonial methods that was different as far as how they divided us. Then it came to our politics. So some politicians knew that you cannot be a president without having a Mandinka support. So instead of sticking on policies, or they knew too that when you pass Birkama, going to the provinces, that's another voting block that you can use in order to get to power. So there goes their dirty politics in terms of not sticking to issues, but they will try to divide the urban areas versus the rural areas. And they will try to divide the Mandinkas versus the other tribes. So by their cynical approaches, if they can get about, let's say, 40% of Mandinkas, all they can garner now is a few Fulas here and there, few Wolofs here and there, or few Jolas here and there, and they'll get to be presidents. That's why it baffles me when a person looks at somebody from the minority, and this is an individual probably that is self-identified Mandinka. When they look at someone from a minority and say, you would never be a president, then it hits you back, and then you ask the question, why do you have such confidence that a Wolof would never be president? Why do you have such a confidence that a Fula would never be president? Are you that arrogant to think that someone would never be president? What are the qualifications of a presidency in our constitution? Because last time I checked, there was no tribal litmus test on it. So you ask where it emanated from. I believe this is a colonial method that was inflicted in us, and the politicians use it to get into office. That's where I will stop for now. But later, hopefully, we would elaborate in terms of where we are right now. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Job. Sabali, are you here?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, and I'm seeing.
What's your take on that?
Well, I think both co-panelists did a good job in terms of analyzing the situation, because what's happening in the discussion in tribalism, which really worries me, is that there's a kind of a simplistic approach by saying that my tribe is Gambia. I mean, there is no tribe called Gambia, for God's sake. Our tribes are realities, and as my colleague said earlier, there is no problem in you identifying with your tribe and promoting your individuality, so long as you don't use that to oppress and suppress others, or using your office to take decisions on tribal lines. The other point here is, and I think Mr. Job said this, the tribal card has some form of political power. And this is where I believe, my colleagues have spoken about the young people coming together, and I think that's a very potent platform. But I think our political leaders should do us a favor and consciously, proactively speak to their followers about this issue, to let their followers know that, okay, fine, we belong to tribes. When it comes to politics, for God and heaven's sake, no tribe is better than the other one. And in the functions that they assume due to political office, they should not use the tribal card. And I know this is easier said than done, because we see what's happening, both in past governments and in the current government. But no society is perfect, so ours is not either. But now that we've identified that this is a problem and it's getting worse, we would need to work together, the young people as a platform, fine. But I think our politicians, I don't believe that any of our leading politicians are tribalists. That's what I believe. But I think what they need to do also is to communicate that message so that everybody knows that, I mean, these political parties, they belong to all tribes. The government belongs to all of us. And we promote the concept of a meritocracy, because that's a problem also. I think we still have a lot of work to do in terms of operating a merit-based system. Room for improvement, definitely. Let's do something about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sabali. That was clear. Mr. Tamba, how does this tribalism issue affect our society or the nation at large?
It affects people because of various issues. Number one, we seem to think a tribal person being in public office, in a high office, is going to decide based on tribal lines. Number one, I think that comes with maturity. So our leadership, if they show the willingness, like I said, our leaders should show examples and start administering from the top based on merit rather than tribal affiliation or region. Based on the examples set by the government or our leaders, whether they're chiefs or alcalos, I think structures still exist. The people will realize being from a certain tribe is not an advantage or a disadvantage. If you have the merit, if you have the skills and the education, you will benefit from the opportunities that exist. We need to stop our administrators using the tribal card to determine who gets to the top. Once we do that, it's going to die down. I mean, the only way we can get over this is political maturity. If we get people to understand that a position is meant for everyone, if you're running public office, especially, you've got to look after people you don't like, people from other regions, people from other tribes. You might give them jobs and you might not like it, but the rules are there. Our institutions have to have proper structures where no one can tribal line or regional like. Once we've got those institutions reformed, restructured, and the rules are written in black and white, even when you apply for jobs, you have to declare certain things so the department knows that other people will be given fair opportunities to be shortlisted, to be interviewed, and to be offered jobs. Locally, I don't think the tribal lines are very visible as they are in terms of public office and in politics. Locally, people live together, they're happy. We're laughing at each other, we're intermarrying, we're doing stuff together. We live next to each other, we coexist beautifully. But when it comes to this power thing, when it comes to this institutional thing, when it comes to this political party thing, suddenly these bloodlines become thicker and wider, and we get separated. Now, whether the politicians are using this to get power, like Job said, which is what they're trying to do, I think, they're trying to use these tribal lines, knowing that my tribe has got a large percentage of Gambia, and if I go via tribal lines and lucky to grab a few votes from the other tribes, I'll become president. It doesn't matter. This is why the lines become blurred from our homes. They're blurry. They get thicker and thicker and thicker. And by the time we get to our president, they're so bold that we get separated totally. To get people back in disintegrating community again becomes harder, because then the surrogates and other people start talking and saying stuff that divides people. We need to choose a reform from the top down, not from the bottom up. We need to go from the top down. The politicians have all tribal rhetoric, all tribal recruitment. Politicians have to come and be bold and say, look, this government is ruling against all tribes. We're not going to give anyone position just because they're this or that. We're going to give them position because they deserve it. We need to start just a report and try to make our schools. It comes with indoctrination from our schools. But you cannot indoctrinate kids when they see the people at the top practicing exactly what you're preaching against. I think we need to start doing this indoctrination, but we need to reform the top first, and then we can indoctrinate the kids, grow them up thinking tribe is not very important in terms of equal opportunities. Okay? It's not important. It's important when it comes to cultural weeks, creation weeks, but not when it comes to running institutions in our community, or giving respect to women, or giving respect to people from the other tribes. So we need to do this very quickly. Our government needs to make this a priority, reform all institutions, and start indoctrinating our children. By the time they get to secondary school and high school or senior secondary school, they'll realize, you know what, I'm going to my back. I'm not going to get it because my Mandinka is running it. My Jola brother is running the service. This is what we need to do. Institutional reform, and then filter that down to the nursery schools in the Gambia. Our community will benefit. We're beautiful when we work together as one unit. And this is why when we have social events like naming ceremonies or funerals, we love it because everyone comes into one unit and no one knows who's who. We're one. Why can't we have the same spirit into our government and into everything else? It's a mystery. We can't do it. We just have to show people that these things, government is community as well. All right? We look at it as political stuff, but government is community. It's the same community, it's the same family that gets expanded from one family to community to government to politics. Where then the fragment? I don't know. But I think today's one will help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tamba. Sabali, what's your take on that? How does tribalism affect the society or the nation at large?
Well, where tribalism thrives, the whole nation loses. That means the system is not built on meritocracy. One, two, the tendency for conflict and disintegration in society becomes very high, and that's not in anybody's interest. So the sooner we resolve this, the better. I want to make reference, I think he made a brilliant contribution just now, actually, in terms of reforms, like attacking some of these problems from the roots. The school system, I think our educational system needs a complete reboot. Unfortunately, I've not heard much from the current government in terms of changing things. I think they need to change the entire education system of this country. We've made gains in the past, fine, but wallahi, we know that the system needs to be adjusted, and that should be done. And part of those reforms should come in these issues that my colleague mentioned, but also even inject the issue of patriotism in our young people. He also spoke about the top, and I think, to be honest, I've seen President Barrow make certain moves good, but I think he needs to add up. He needs to bolster his efforts in terms of trying to resolve this problem. The other area I think that needs a little bit of more effort is the media. I think the media, to be honest, is falling a little bit below its potential in terms of the role that it can play in rebuilding, healing, and reintegrating and reuniting New Gambia. I think those of us in the media, we all can do better. I want to congratulate your platform for taking up this issue, because more often than not, we try to run away from these difficult issues, quote unquote. But as my mother would say in Mandinka, tribalism is a reality in the Gambia. The sooner we tackle it, the better. And I think we've talked about the leadership, the grassroots. The media has a fundamental role to play, and we should all do something to make sure that this dangerous 800-pound gorilla in our backyard is nipped in the bud, as they would say in the usual cliche, which I don't like to use. But it's a problem we need to fix. And I want to say one thing also. I see this issue of tribalism. One thing I've noticed, those who are pointing fingers at others, most of the time they are the worst tribalists in this country. Let us be sincere and honest to ourselves and try to do some introspection. Like the good old bird of Avon would say, Shakespeare, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. You're accusing others of tribalism, check yourself, fine-tune yourself. Let us be one as we all sing in our national prayer, and join our diverse peoples towards man brotherhood. We are brothers and sisters. In my house, 3 languages or 4 are spoken: Jola, Mandinka, Wolof, and Mankai. And I'm sure most Gambians don't even know that Mankai is a tribe. But we need to. There is a silent majority, I must say, that one of my colleagues spoke about the loudmouths, which are in the minority. So the silent majority needs to speak up. No voice is insignificant. Let's talk to each other in social media, in our homes, in the schools, in the entire campus, at the football pitches. Let us speak to each other and to make sure that we operate as Gambians, not as tribes, in as much as we identify with these cultural institutions. And I'm very proud of the tribe I belong to. But we should not use our tribes to suppress or oppress or discriminate against other people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sabali. Juka, Miss Joker, what's your question? Um, Miss Joker is breaking. Miss Joker is breaking. Maybe we can read some of the comments while she fix the internet. We have a comment from Alhaji Njundo Drame, and it reads, "There is no tribalism in the Gambia on the ground. Tribesmen and women are in the diaspora. You people are the tribalists. Tribalists. Gambia, we are the same mothers and fathers. Well, we're just trying to find a solution to the problem, Mr. Drame. We have another one from Pa Os, and it reads, "No tribe stands alone in the Gambia. We like it or not, politicians are using it as a strong political tool to divide the Gambia. The youth and entire population should stand against any person who is promoting tribal hatred. The future of the country lies in our hand, and we can only make well, I don't understand that sentence. Tribalism is more visit. Well, I don't know what he was trying to say, but the last sentence reads, Jammeh was bad, but never a tribal until his last moments, and has backfired, and that will happen to anyone who does the same." You have another one from Jarka Jafunko, and it reads, "The fact In fact, this debate seems to be gross contributor to the tribal problem. Better you choose different." Kabiro S. Jane, I read, "People will listen to those who cannot communicate their interests without insulting their own tribe and generation at large. Knowledge goes with discipline, otherwise it's useless or just white elephant." You have another one from Alaji Njudo Drame again. "You are the travelers." Well, mister, I don't think we have issues with you. We're just trying to find a solution to this problem. But Miss Juka is back. Juka, what is your question before we go ahead to the next question?
It's okay.
He's gone again. Mr. Job.
If I may come in.
Yeah, what's your take on that? How does tribalism affect our society and nation at large?
Well, it affects it a great deal because, as you can see, some of these people are oblivious to it. They are in denial. And let us be honest, it's a very touchy subject and it's very controversial and very personal. So let me elaborate here more. If you cannot just willy-nilly point to somebody who wrote something on Facebook that you are tribalist, just like that. Because remember, we have prejudice and we have tribalism. Now, you can have biases too. If you have prejudicial bias against an individual and you display it, then you are just prejudiced. You're a bigot. Where it becomes a problem, like I stated before, is when you gain power and you suppress someone who is in a minority. That's where the problem goes. That's where you use your tribe to benefit something that should have been done in a public manner, a state manner, something that everyone contributed, but you use your tribe to advance that profit. Now, there are two things that we can identify since tribalism is a subjective matter. That is, I can personally tell you my story. Now, if I meet somebody and they ask me, because this happened to me before, wherein I was in a public transportation and this person was trying to communicate with me in Mandinka. And I told her that I do not understand it. Then she retorted back, "How can you be a Gambian and you do not understand Mandinka?" See, that is offensive, right? Even though I would understand where the person is coming from, because it may sound just like a question, but to me it is a question that stems from arrogance in itself. So I cannot just with that statement just push that person and say that they're tribalist. But if you hold office and you publicly go against a tribe like the former president did, that is a tribalist individual, because he has demonstrated that he held the office of power and he derogatorily he demeaned a tribe. The same responsibility that the former president had to respect all tribes goes to certain individuals on Facebook. If you go to Facebook and you put on Facebook Live that you are against intertribal marriages, you are a tribalist. So these are individual responsibilities that I have just pointed out. One coming from a former president, a head of state, who was supposed to represent all tribes, targeted one specific tribe. There are certain individuals, again, who would use their tribes to advance their political agenda. Those we can point out and say that they are tribalists. Now, when it comes to how it affects all of us, well, we are still having this conversation. There are certain conversations you and I know that we cannot even have right now without creating a firestorm. Because intertribal marriages, God knows how all the parties feel. The two parties that are married, they would love each other and they would not have a problem with each other. But God knows, every one of you guys know that when it goes to the aunties, the uncles, the grandmas, and all that, that's where the problem lies. Because there comes into, well, who speaks what language in the home? No wonder we have this individual who is fixated on who speaks Wolof in their homes. Why would you, if you are not tribalist, if you do not have that innate bias in you, why would you worry about what languages you speak in a home? To me, if someone is intertribally married, what matters? Whatever is comfortable in the home that the children speak it. Why must you hold this subconscious bias in you to force the child to speak one language, or you are troubled by it? See, that's where the problem lies here. When you are being hypocritical by saying that you are not disturbed by tribalism, but then you are disturbed by what languages the children speak in intertribal marriage. That is hypocritical. So what I'm saying here is this: if we want to be honest, if we want to be honest with ourselves, let us check our internal biases. Because President Obama came out when, I don't know if you guys watched his race speech. He identified where he came from. Yeah, he identified where he came from, the black side, and he came from the white side. He has witnessed his white grandmother say the most despicable things about black folks, and then he has also witnessed black folks say the most demeaning things about white folks. But he came to the middle ground. Now, in terms of middle ground here, what I'm proposing moving forward is our government, it's about time our government asks for self-identification. What I mean by self-identification is when you apply for a job, you must tick certain boxes to identify who you are, either a Mandinka or Wolof or whatever you want to identify. This is important. Why I say this? Because the government would gather data.
Yes.
They would gather data. Can you hear me?
I had Mr. Tamba and Mr. Job. I think almost all of them spoke about the issue of tribalism at the top, at the government level and stuff. But I was wondering, do you people really? Oh. Can you hear me?
The line is breaking up.
6:45. Move to another appointment.
Hello? I have about 15 minutes to go.
And you can check some message.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Carry on, Mr. Jobs.
Okay. Well, could you tell Ms. Sabali to mute a little bit, please?
Yeah, Sabali, can you
Okay.
please mute your phone?
Okay.
So yeah, I was talking about the hiring process. We want to know our government, the share of hiring. Yes, we would use the litmus test in terms of competence at first. That's the first bar when someone is qualified. Obviously, we're not gonna base because of Fuller doesn't have a bachelor's degree and we require a bachelor's degree doesn't mean that we're gonna bypass someone else who's qualified. But for the sake of inclusivity, for the sake of everyone getting a pie, the share of the pie, I am asking our government to start collecting data on self-identified individuals based on tribes. What do you want to identify yourself? Yes, there's going to be an option for Fula, Jola, whatever it is. You can identify yourself with 2 tribes, so we would know how many people are hired in our government to represent somebody. They do it here in the United States. Even here, the secretaries of state, they have different versatility. They come from different tribes and all that stuff. We have Asian Americans, we have Black Americans, we have Indian Americans. Why is that? Because I, as a taxpayer, if I sit somewhere, I want somebody to identify himself or herself through me. When I look at this individual and I know that this individual is an African American and is at the ministerial level, guess what? I would feel included in the government. So what I'm saying here is, if we have a government that wants to be inclusive, I'm not saying that you use tribe as like I said, the ground breaking here to hire. No, but it would help too, whether we want to accept it or not. It would help too to know that a Wolof is in the administration, a Jola is in the administration, a Pula is in the administration, a Mandinka is, all tribes are represented. That's where I think we should start. And as far as politics goes, we have to make it absolutely clear to the tribal card, we would leave you. We want you to talk about policies, period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Job. Our next question will be for Mr. Sabali. Sabali, if you can hear me.
Yes.
What is government's role in ending tribalism in the country?
Well, yeah, I must say, I want to make reference to Mr. Joe because I think he made some very brilliant contribution here about taking down statistics on tribes. And I know here people don't want to hear these things, but you know, as Sidi Ajata said recently, and I quote from him in Parliament, he said, nations are not built with sentiment; they are built on critical thinking and strategy. So some of these issues are realities. We cannot brush them away. Somebody said there's no tribalism in the Gambia. I'm on the ground. Tribalism is here. We know it. It's not new though, but it's here. So to deal with this thing, we need to be pragmatic and we need to use some form of critical thinking to deal with it. I think Mr. Job's suggestion, for instance, government should consider that. 2, government needs to come out and speak out with a clear message to show Gambians that we are one, we all belong together. This new Gambia belongs to all of us, and it doesn't have to be one statement or one speech.
Hello?
It has to go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Juka, can you mute yourself? Yeah, carry on, Mr. Sabali.
Yeah, so government needs to
hear me?
Am I on?
Carry on, Sabali. Yes, carry on.
To push this message in a pragmatic and very consistent manner. And it is the role of the media to bring in innovation and creativity, to bring in programs that are attractive and swag enough to capture the imagination of our burgeoning youth population, to change the mindset. This should be done. It cannot be done by government alone. Yes, government has a role to play, and they should be persistent in pushing this message of unity, pushing this message of anti-tribalism. But again, the media, I want to emphasize and emphasize the role of the media and also in individuals. One more thing, I want to pick on Mr. Job's thingy about the incident in the public transport. I think one important factor here is also patience. We need to be patient with each other, and those of us who are imbued with some form of education need to rise to the next level. I just want to make one anecdote here. I have a friend who lives in New York. I mean, he said one lady, when Dominic Mendy was then trade minister and Nawek was on the trade, he said the lady came and said, yes, now the electricity situation will be perfect in the Gambia, because the Manjago is the minister and he brought in a big generator. He said Nawik, according to her, means big in Manjago. And my friend Fode said, he says, you know, this sounds tribal, but I'm okay with it. Here is a Manjago woman who feels identified with a particularly important person in government, and finally she feels she's a part of his government. So that takes me back to Mr. Job's suggestion about taking these statistics on tribe so that people can identify. I think it might be a very controversial issue, but if we look at it critically without sentiments, I am fully in support of his suggestion to do a little bit more research and a little bit more critical thinking on tribe and tribal issues. And again, on a final note, I want to thank you. As agreed, I need to leave early for another engagement. I want to thank you for being bold enough and courageous enough to discuss this very sensitive issue. And I'm very happy that you have mature panelists who are able to handle this in a very pragmatic and non-sentimental way and in a very fair and sincere manner. Thank you very much for having me on this, and keep up the great work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sabali. Thanks for joining us. And Mr. Job, what's your take on that? What is the government's
like I said, leaders are innovators. They transcenders. They see something that the average voter doesn't see. So if an individual sits there somewhere and says that there's no tribalism, obviously that person is just speaking within his scope. So I wouldn't blame. Can you mute, please? Tribally. Okay. So what I hope here is, moving forward, our leaders would be bold. I want our leaders. Yeah. Can you tell Sabali to mute, please?
Sabali, can you please mute your computer or your... Continue. Carry on, Mr. Joe.
Yeah. So Americans saw that racism was a problem even from the onset. That's why in the Constitution, blacks were viewed as a three-fifths of a person. It was a country designed for white men with property. So, but again, they left an ideology wherein they see all men to be self-evident that they are all created equal. So with that premise, they made sure that they knew that after a couple of years, these individuals, such as women who were not allowed to vote, they would fight for their right to vote. Black men the same way, they would fight for their rights to be integrated. So they left the doors in there. And because of the courageous politicians in Abraham Lincoln is the reason why we are still here. It's because the courageous politicians of John F. Kennedy, that's why we are still here. Lyndon B. Johnson, that's why we have Civil Rights Act. We have the affirmative action here by the Supreme Court. So all these steps are steps that government takes to integrate the society. So when it comes to certain areas, we should not mince our words, and we should make it absolutely clear that we do not want any discrimination. The right to life, we don't want any discrimination. The right to education, we do not want any discrimination. The right to be heard, to redress, expression, media, we do not want anything that is a right given to a Gambian. We do not want discrimination. But it's so easy to just say that we do not want any discrimination. Well, guess what? How do you know that there's discrimination if you do not take in a data, statistics? How do you know? Because here, the reason why we have affirmative action, the reason why we have certain forms, when you fill it, you can identify yourself as black, white, Asian, or whatever, because of the government is using statistics to identify the problem. How many black folks are hired in certain places? How many board members are in certain places? Or how many white folks are in there? That's what people do. You do not run away from a problem. I know people love to say that, well, this is not the United States. Well, guess what? We're still going to be stuck in there. We're still going to be stuck there denying that there's no tribalism when we do know it exists. It exists in our political sphere, and it exists in our government. But like I said again, I'm not going to engage in hyperbole and say that it is everywhere, because again, we have this unique way of integration though, because the same villager who was fed that the urban person is to be feared politically, right, by a politician. When this same urban person goes to the village based on trek, they go out there for about a week or a month or something, they are received very well by these villagers. They given goat meat, and they given milk, all the things that they have in there. So you can sense that there's some camaraderie. There's this sense of Gambianness when a person travels from the urban area to the rural area. Likewise, from the rural area to the urban area, you come, because I have had several times wherein my mom took in individuals I never knew. They were not related to me, but they were pregnant when they came to the urban areas. And guess what? Their medical bills were paid by us. We took them to the hospital. We took care of them until they gave a baby, and then they left. Just out of the blue, just a personal gesture like that. So that is the one Gambianness. Where it becomes a problem, like I stated, is the political arena, where a politician would cynically use it to divide us. And it's about time we are smart enough to recognize these people and reject them. Anyone who peddles tribalism in an innate way, or in a very sophisticated way, or in a very cynical manner, and this is how it goes. Go watch the WhatsApp videos, or you go underneath, because they don't do it out there in the public, because they know we would cry foul. But what they do is they go beneath. They use some of these adults who are illiterate, pardon the word here, but illiterate in a sense as far as not sophisticated to the English language level where they can understand the games that they're trying to play. They use that to go and interpret them. So when Pamodu says something in English in a video, they go and edit it. They edit it, translate it into Mandinka or Fula or whatever language, and they try to use those people, those adults, to fear them. So they could fear Mama Kande, so they could fear Usiru Dabo, so they could fear Halifa Saleh. But meanwhile, these individuals still 52 years in the provinces, they don't still have water. They don't have electricity. They don't have good schools. They don't have hospitals. Who gets to, who loses here? Guess what? The villagers still lose. The politicians, they are still stuck there in Kirsering. They're still stuck there in Cape Point. They're still stuck there with their 5 vehicles. Their kids have the best education. They get to travel everywhere. And who loses here? Just people who are suppressed. They're the ones who lose. So it's about time we stick together. It's about time we know that it is one Gambia and try to move forward with one country. Now, I'm not going to say that it's easy, but again, leaders and politicians have to step forward and charter a new country with a new direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Job. That was very well said. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That was very well said. Mr. Tamba, what's your take on that?
Mr. Job elaborated on very important stuff. That's a similar system in the United Kingdom, where before you apply for jobs, one of the forms you need to complete is called Equal Opportunities Form. And that form ensures that everyone who's applied for jobs, if they've got the qualities or the job description that's been advertised, if that person meets those requirements, they get shortlisted for the interview. If they're part of the top 5 or top 10 depending on what the employer wants to interview, what numbers they're looking at the interviewing. So there's no way. And before the job adverts even go out, they're looking at putting job descriptions out there. And the job descriptions have to be in a way that invites applications from ethnic minorities. It invites applications from all sectors, sections of the community, members of the community. And when you apply, you need to fill one of those forms. And when they interview or shortlist, they have to ensure, the departments or the institutions have to ensure that in their shortlist process, they've given due consideration to everyone that applied. In the end, the shortlisted candidates or 5 or 10 or 15 will come in based on merit. And it's not because of their surnames, and it's not because of where they came from. It will depend on what their strong application says. And when they come in an interview, they need to go through that interview shortlist again of the top candidates, the top performers in the interview compared to their paper applications. And looking at it, they cannot just say, oh, we're going to employ that person because they're from my tribe, they've got the same surname. No, they have to demonstrate to the institution, to the board, that in the interview, that particular person was the strongest candidate. And the other matters they have to look at is how the institution is formed. Is it top heavy on just men? Is it top heavy on just one section of the community? Or is it in a manner that shows a fair representation of the community in the institution? If it's a private company, it's a different matter. But every government institution, fully in the semi-autonomous or part of the government, fully part of the government, has to demonstrate that opportunities have been spread across the board. So there will be no active discrimination. They will show that everyone else has been given the opportunity, and in the end, the best candidate won. We're not going to go around and say, oh, that's my niece over there, or that's my nephew over there, I'll put them in that position. You have to show the board that your niece or nephew tick the most boxes and perform the best in the interview. And then that has to couple with the experience. And if we're looking at Gambia, if we grow up our kids the same way, people go into class, it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter who your parents are. You go to class and have the same opportunity with the other kids. The exam is the same. You go through the same papers. You grow up through primary school knowing I'm not better than the other person. That person isn't better than me. I'm as good as that person intellectually. And that's what we need. We need that intellectual brilliance or vocational brilliance, or somebody has skills that beat everyone else's. The kids grow up that way. They go into high school and it's the same structure. You only get what you've earned, what you deserve, rather than being the son of Minister so, or the son of Chief so, or the son of the principal. You know what I'm saying? You get the same opportunities. You go to university and it's the same criteria you need to go through compared to every other kid. You fill the same forms, you go through the same structures. If you're the son of the principal or the chancellor of the university, doesn't give you better chances than the other kid. You just have to go through the same routine, the same checks to be able to get that position in university. The same should apply to our institutions when it comes to employment. And this is why I said the starting point, primary school, is very important. But we cannot start the formal process from the nursery school to primary school when the politicians at the top, the government employers at the top are practicing the opposite. The kids are going to look up and say, oh, well, you said these people are the same. So how come these people at the top said, oh, we're better than the other side. We're better than the other tribe. You're teaching us what you're not practicing. So we need to show our children, and children are very, very good. They're actually better at watching and observing what's been practiced than what's been taught on paper. So they're watching what their parents are doing. They're watching what their community is doing. This is why if we start teaching it from primary school formally, that we're all equal. The only difference is our academic performance. If you're not brilliant academically, you're brilliant vocationally, you're brilliant. You get the same opportunity. You know, the kids grow up and they see the adults exemplifying it. We cannot have the kids being taught one way and the adults at the top or their surrogates are practicing a whole new different section of community that we don't want to see. So if we can't get rid of it, we need to start now at both ends. It's important that the government, like Mr. Sabali said earlier, the government come out and say, look, we're going to stamp out this tribalism issue. We're going to demonstrate that from now on, every cabinet position that we want to fill is advertised, or we look at candidates from everywhere, every section of the community. At the same time, the school curriculum is going to need a massive overhaul. Okay? And you need to start teach them patriotism, nationalism. If somebody says, go and push the other person, or go and pick up a gun and shoot the president, and I'll give you £1 million
just say to them, no, I don't want the I don't want the $1 million, because I think our president today is doing very well for the majority of the country. You're never going to win 100%. It's not possible. Even God's prophets didn't win 100%. They won 100%. But if you're doing the majority of work for the majority of the country, that's good enough for the country. No one had it correct 100%. So we need to go up and say to people, okay, this is where we want our community to go, and the examples have to be set by our leaders. They need to come out and bold and condemn all sectional and all tribal rhetoric that like what we've seen over the weekend and the last 2 days. They need to condemn it, and they need to tell the kids, no, this is not right. This is what we think is right, and they need to teach that all through the stages of our development. And it's very important that we start doing that now. Otherwise, we're going to keep replaying the same broken record. We're going to start reliving the same horrible scenes and horrible situations. We can do better than that. We're better. Community level, we're better. We're like one bonded unit. When it comes to institutions and politics, suddenly that adhesive that kept us together, that bond that kept us together, suddenly dries up, it fragments, it brittles, and then we become obnoxious as that video we've seen the last few days, where somebody's discouraging the same people from marrying each other. It shouldn't happen. Videos like that should be condemned and taken down straight away. Thank you.
You are.
Sorry about that, Mr. Job. Can tribalism be a major setback for the government's development agenda, especially with the when it is encouraged by and practiced by at the government level? Sorry.
Well, obviously, because look at us right now. We were supposed to talk about education. We were supposed to talk about infrastructure. We're supposed to talk about the aid that we're receiving. We're supposed to talk about the schools, the healthcare. We're supposed to talk about what policies do we have for our women, girls. We have. I just read in the reports wherein there was an armed robbery in our country. Could you believe that? Armed robbery in our country, wherein the police reportedly came there with empty hands. Are you kidding me? All these issues now are the back burner because some idiot decided, I'm sorry for the language here, using idiot, because it takes the nation back. So, what and this is what I want people to understand about social media, why it's so dangerous. Social media is designed in a way wherein, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but if you make a video, has it ever occurred to you the time that you made a video, about 45 people were watching it? But after you come back a week, it has about 5,000 views. Who's watching that? It has been circulated. So you, the individual, before you post something, see, we are a hypocritical society. We want to tell women that before they post something, as far as their naked bodies or whatever, they should think about the repercussion. But you, the individual, before you post a video, you run your mouth and you do not know where the video is going to end up in. You do not know who is going to interpret, misinterpret it. You do not know how the individual is going to be affected. So where's this this individual responsibility here? Wherein before you post something, if you know that you're going to offend a certain tribe, why would you post it? And to me, let me put to rest this hypocritical stance wherein you want to differentiate the party from the surrogate. First of all, if an individual raises money for the party, if the individual has access to the executive level, if the individual goes out there and in rallies, rally everyone and advocate for you, fund for you, whatever, that individual is close to the party. That individual is not somebody that is just walking by the street. There's a lot of noise coming from you guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, can you let her know that she can mute and let me finish this and she'll get to it.
Yuma, can you please mute your phone?
Okay. So,
okay.
What is important, as you can see, we're set back. Every time we want to talk about policy, every time we want to talk about something, first of all, Mama Kande is a politician. He can level whatever accusation he wants. To me, I expect a mature government to just come and give us a press statement or address it during our weekly conference. I mean, Bojang can just come and refute it and give Gambians the evidence is here. This is what happened. There's no corruption, and we move on. But no, why do you feel compelled for you to just be such this boisterous, loud, to come on social media, going into someone else's personal business? What has the personal business has to do with the allegation that the government was engaged in corruption? Why can't we just elevate the discussion? Why can't we elevate the rhetoric in a very responsible manner? But again, we have to go to somebody's personal business, and we have to go to somebody's individual home. So to me, it sets us back. It sets us back. We're here still talking about the issue, and I hope that the leaders, again, the leaders of this executive party can come out, just like we forced Donald Trump to do. When Donald Trump was sitting here saying that he is not a racist, but behind he was condoning the racists to go robocalls for him, guess what? The media, which I agree with these guys, Mr. Tamba and Mr. Tabali, the media has a role to call out these people, the executives, that they should not harbor in their party. They definitively and emphatically denounce these individuals and that they do not speak for the public. And the reason why it's critical is when these militants threatened to boycott this party, the leader felt he felt it necessary to come and address them. So when convenient to break a party, they want to address them, but with a society, you say that this person doesn't speak for the party. That is confusing. What I'm getting at here is, in order to move on, is we need to shun these people out of this discussion. It doesn't belong to our discourse. We want to talk about jobs. It's been over 6 months. So I have in this national assembly. I have a single person perpetrated for us for safety. We have all these problems that we acquired from the former government. So it's time for serious people to sit down and advocate for policies that would change government instead of engaging in this sort of surrogacy. To me, I think this is only a tactic. Orwellianism is when you trust a lie constantly so that it becomes believable. And this is what these people do. Anytime you talk about the government, anytime you talk about something that's negative to the government or you criticize them, they try to outcast you like you do not belong to it. And that part, these people were one of the APR senators for. And they also come here and address this too right now. I don't hold any moral high ground in this matter, but in the interest of moving forward, in the interest of one nation, in the interest of helping this government, based on what they acquired from the past government, it's time for a unified country. Just like Mr. Tamba said, you're not going to get 100% of the people's support. You're not. Some people, they just like that. They are, part of it has to do with the other government problem because he insulated the phony areas for a political gain. Again, this speaks to what I just told you about a cynical politician who do not have anything to offer, but they use people as political pawns. So he insulated the whole phony area to where now it's a no-go area for anybody. And these people now are thinking that when you come after them, you taking something away from them. Meanwhile, these people were still people who are Gambians. You can't just come after them and say, well, you know what, because it was the fault of the former regime, well, we're going to have to start taking this away from you. No. But what you do have, the first step, which I agree with Adam Barrow, is you have to go meet them. You have to listen to them. They're concerned. And then you see the way forward. Matter of fact, they have representatives in National Assembly. Go sit with these representatives and sit with them and ask them what is it that your people need. If it's about security, yes, it's my job. I'm the president. I'm going to secure everyone. I'm not going to leave certain areas or whatever. If it's about food, yes, I'm trying to bring down the food prices. It's about rent. I'm trying to do the same thing. Housing, I'm trying to do the same thing. So I'm still waiting for this national speech by Adam Barrow about oneness, one Gambia, one tribe, one individual, that he represents all. I'm still waiting for that. Thank you, and it's been a pleasure. Let me get back to work. I appreciate the panelists. It was a bold step. You invited me. I never knew that I could last this long. It was really productive, and thank you guys. In the spirit of One Gambia, I hope to sit down with Mr. Tamba, with you and everyone else, and drink our cafe tuba, and we move on. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We are
Thank
so
you,
humbled
Mr.
to have
Joe.
you here today. Miss Yuka is here. So, Mr. Tamba, what's your take on that?
Sorry,
On again, Mr. Tamba, what's your take on that before we wrap up for today?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke about the institution, which is government, from the government going down, and we start from the bottom going up. So, like Mr. Job said, and Sabali said, the education. But while we're restructuring and waiting for this effect to come into practice, we expect our media to play a responsible role in all of this. Our newspapers, our online media should have come out heavy on any video that comes out that resembles like what that chap, I don't even want to call his name because I was so outraged to hear a Gambian say, do not marry a Fuller, do not marry a Mandinka, do not marry that, you have to marry yourselves. That was preposterous. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to glorify, I didn't want to comment about it, I didn't want to share the video. I don't want anyone else to see that video. Left with me alone, it wouldn't have been circulated. You let those people have the attention in their houses alone, not have national attention and international attention, because it's had the wrong effect. So our media should have come out unanimously with one big line to condemn it and push that video down to the dustbins. It shouldn't have been there. Every house, media house, should have been up and saying that video is deplorable, it's disgusting, it's distasteful. Nobody should be watching it or sharing it. If they've done that, or if they did that the other day, this individual would be the last time he would do anything like that. A similar thing happened a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, with another preacher, a hate preacher, an Islamic scholar who came up with something similar, and people condemned him. 2 months almost, and we haven't heard from him again. We never heard any audio or videos of him preaching like that again. So the media condemned him, the people condemned him, the social media came down heavy on him. We need to do the same to this particular new guy that started the same rhetoric. Everyone should be singing from the same hymn sheet. We should all be doing this condemnation in sync. But overall, going forward, it has to be institutional. It has to be structured. The equal opportunities policy, it starts from the nursery school going all the way up. Eventually, we'll overcome it. It'll take time. But I don't want my grandchildren going through the same things that you and I are talking about, Fatima. I don't want them to be hearing that. I don't want them to be talking about stuff like that. I want your children and my children to be saying, oh, the last government did better than this, or the other department is outperforming the other department, or the other school is outperforming the other school in academics or in extracurricular activities or intersports. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear people saying, oh, the other tribe guy said this, or the other tribe is that. No, that's wrong. We should have grown above that now. Gambia's literacy level has improved. But our behavior doesn't seem to improve in terms of institutional administration. It hasn't changed. Better education is supposed to result in better institutional management, but we seem to be stagnant or getting worse. Tribalism is open now. It's open warfare. It's not as discreet as it used to be. People are saying it openly, and their own supporters who are blinded by whatever are cheering them on. They're clapping them on and then cheering them on and say, oh yeah, that guy is great. Thanks for that speech. No, you said no. My wife is so-and-so. You shouldn't have said that. Or my brother is married to so-and-so. You shouldn't have said that. That's wrong. And that's the stance we need to take. The media and the country and the politicians in the government have to come together and say, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that again. If you do that again, you're going to face the consequences, period. And I think we need to start reforms now. It's very urgent that we look into these matters. Mr. Job said the president needs to start it by coming one Gambia, one tribe, whatever, and then everyone else will follow. But we need to actually practice it.
rather than just rhetoric. It needs to be done. Thank you, Fatima. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamin Tamba. That was it for today, and we'll try and have
Thank you,
baby boy. Congratulations, Ahmed Jite. And that was it. So thank you everyone for watching.
Yes.
Just to remind you that you're watching the reality show on your favorite platform, the Re-Entity, for updates, because we have a lot of interesting programs and beautiful souls in line for you. Thank you very much, and that was it. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.